the 1974 Euros in Modena, Italy. This 8mm film is about the very first Euros, the 1974 European Championship in Modena in the middle of Italy. This is how international 1/8 scale on-road racing started in Europe. The Modena track was called Pista Santa Anna, and was probably one of the very first permanent on-road racing tracks in Europe. Enjoy this truly amazing piece of RC racing history. As you can see, the track had a very simple layout and no barriers. Participants and public sitting around the track without any protection. Imagine this in an era where we had often radio problems. The reliability of the radio equipment was very poor in these days, and cars getting out of control was no exception. The Dutch team was represented by Ronnie Tun, Henk Groen, Frank Krombergy, and myself, Peter. For all four of us, this was our very first major race. RC racing had taken off rapidly in Italy, mainly because Franco Sabatini had started to manufacture RC cars under the brand name SG. Besides the Italian and the Dutch racers, there were a few racers from Switzerland, Jean-Pierre Rouchard, and Germany. Heiner Martin, later vice president of EFRA, was also present as a mechanic for his friend, I don't remember his name. We had driven from the Netherlands to Modena, some 1,800 kilometers, straight on of course, and were camping track side. The little trailer was mine, it held all my cars and stuff and acted as my starter box as well. And boy, was it hot in Modena that Euros. Everyone wearing the typical 70s style shorts and shirts. This is Franco Sabatini, a true RC racing legend. He was an excellent racer and was the first European champion winning the sports car category. I believe the racer with the Mustic is Mares, one of Franco's team drivers. I remember the racer on his knees well, but not his name. I think it was Di Stefano. Anyway, he had incredible fast engines. His Super Tiger engines were screaming at least 5,000 RPM higher than anyone else. Impressive. Ronnie Tun was racing his famous full suspension car, and was among the fastest racers in Modena, much to the surprise of the Italians. Ronnie's scratch-built independent suspension cars must rank at the top of the RC car designs of that era. Everybody was racing the typical 70s style pan chassis, but Ronnie's car was a true exception. I recently received some very rare photos of that car from Ronnie's son Carl, and will surely let you in on this advanced chassis which was used for the very first Serpent Quattro design. This guy with the camera, I remember well too. I believe he was from Spain writing for a Spanish model car magazine. He came to many of the very early races in the 70s. This is the Dutch team behind their cars, Frank Krombergy, me with the orange hat, Ronnie Tun, and Henk Groen. The performance of the cars in those days was mediocre, to say the least. But that was what we were used to in the early days of RC racing. I ran my own scratch-built chassis from my very first race till 1978 when I became Serpent's first official team driver. By the way, Frank Krombergy was part of the company that started FWF Engineering, who created the very first Serpent chassis. In 1979 I joined FWF Engineering, and end of that year I took over the company. Ronnie Tun joined the new Serpent company Burton in 1980. This was routine before the start of a final in those days. The mandatory radio check. All transmitters had to switch off and the receivers in the cars were then switched on, one by one, to check if there was any interference. Next each transmitter was turned on, again one by one, with all receivers switched on, to see if this was creating any interference. And if there was interference detected, the finger pointing started. Quite hilarious to think back of this now, 50 years later. This whole routine could easily take half an hour if some interference was detected. And despite all the checks, radio problems were one of the main causes you didn't finish your race in those days. This radio check finally disappeared in 2007, when the new 2.4 GHz transmitter technology was introduced. Ronnie Tun's independent suspension car in action. Ronnie was also known for his meticulous preparation. Look at the detail of the V8 carburetor inlets mounted on top of the body, not parallel and straight up, but also at the right angle. He had a unique feel for detail and realism. His driver figures were always ultra-realistic too. And sorry about the stuttering of the racing footage. This is caused by the stabilization process, which doesn't work very well for fast-moving objects like little RC cars. SG Chief Franco Sabatini was crowned European champion in the sports car category. Henk Groen from the Netherlands finished second and Jean-Pierre Rouchard from Switzerland third. And Ronnie? I don't remember what happened to him in the final, probably an engine or glow plug problem, so common in these days. SG team driver Melotti from Italy won Formula class if I remember well. I don't remember how I finished that first Euros. It was a good experience for sure. On to the next Euros in Modena, Switzerland. This was the very first Euros, the beginning of a race to perfection that is still going on today. Thanks for watching this video. It is not easy to create a voiceover for a race that took place 50 years ago today. I have searched for race reports and results of this first European Championship, but I think this race was held before RC magazines were even around. I hope you enjoyed this story nevertheless.